DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at the Sunday 10-game slate here on DraftKings, and a fair amount of pitching, unlike yesterday. So we definitely have some nice options for today's games.
Yes, we do. Let's fire it up, baby. I just got finished watching Talladega Nights, so hopefully that's a good sign of jokes to come.
I think it would be. I mean, you're in a generous mood today, you know?
Oh, good thing I'm not at church, or I'd be giving more than I should.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
When they pass the
I got it now. Sorry, not a big churchgoer.
Generous mood. Yeah.
So, jumping into things here first, we get the Brewers and the Reds, and a big total here. Dan Straley on the hill for Zach Davies, and these two arms are not guys that you're looking to use. You are looking to kind of deploy both sides of the plate, and for me, I mean, there's kind of a little bit of everything in this game, but for most part, it's pretty expensive. Outside of Ryan Braun, who's a measly 3,500.
Yeah, what the heck is that? Less than Scooter? I mean, I love Scooter, but that's crazy. Yeah, in terms of this game, it's not quite as high upside as yesterday's, but I do still like the matchups for both offenses here. Votto at 53, that's a tough price to get behind, but I don't know. I'd rather go Bruce there and just figure out something else at first, but at the same time, they are definitely a viable stack. So in a stack, definitely Votto's an option.
Yeah, definitely. Look at Davis. I mean, 359 WOBA to lefties this year, 1.39 home runs per nine. Got like that in this ballpark. I don't mind Billy Hamilton at 3,800 with some stolen base upside. But yeah, I mean, Votto's expensive, but definitely an option on today's slate. And Jay Bruce too at 4,800. As far as the Brewers side of things go, I mean, I think it's kind of just the usual front four for me here. I don't mind Scooter Gannett at 3,700. Braun, I mean, 35 is going to be a guy who I'll plug into some lineups. And Lucroy, I mean, catcher pricing is definitely odd today. He's very expensive, but it's weird because the punting guys are kind of at that 4K 3,500 range. It seems like everything just tilted upwards at catcher.
Yeah, so going to be tough to pay that price for him for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're looking down, but obviously a Brewers stack. I think both these teams are definitely stackable, and I do think one-offs. I think you're good to get some exposure here.
Yeah, it's weird. Like you have to pick your spots if you're just doing standalone plays, but I do like both lineups as stacks. But I mean that Reds team is super expensive, so you really have to make a swerve off the consensus.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Tigers and Royals, next one here. Michael Fulmer versus Donna Ventura, and I kind of like Fulmer today as a decent option on the hill, 10-9, but I think he's earned that price tag. I mean, he's been great this year, and there's really a lot to like about him. I mean, strikeout rate's been there, 23%, swing strike 11.5, 2.11 ERA. I mean, he doesn't really get shelled, and sure, he might have one of those games where he just gets 15 DK points, but he's never absolutely crushing your teams.
No, he's definitely not, and I do like this matchup. Pretty reasonable in terms of paying down off the top options, so I do like that as well. And I mean, in terms of matchups, obviously Hosmer's intriguing, but overall, Vegas is pretty kind to Fulmer, and I think this is a pretty good matchup for him. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably stick to more tournaments than cash just because of the high upside at pitching, but I think you can get some pretty nice stacks in there with Fulmer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm not really on the Royals, even at their depreciated prices. I do think Fulmer is going to be a guy who I find in my lineup quite a bit. So, hard for me to kind of get behind using a bunch of them as value. But I guess you could if you're kind of expecting Fulmer to have a down day. But I'm not really doing so.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I don't know. Hosmer at 29, pretty decent.
It's a decent price tag. I mean, obviously you're getting a solid first baseman for under 3K. So, you know, even against Fulmer, who's obviously been solid, you know, Hosmer 2-hit game, maybe picks up a run or an RBI. It's decent for obviously that price tag.
I was thinking 3 home runs, but yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a nice little floor there for him. Yeah.
Tiger side things go, I like them much more today. I like
Mm.
that Victor Martinez price at 3,900. You look at Ventura, been very up and down this season. Lefties have hit him at a decent rate, 335 WOBA, 1.35 runs per nine. And he's a sizable discount from Miguel Cabrera, so 1,100 less there. I think given the pitching options on the slate, Victor Martinez just kind of just seemed to be the
Yeah.
justifiable salary guy.
The salary makes that one pretty easy for me in that lineup. And then I mean, I think you can go with the other value guy in Cameron Maben. But beyond that, I mean, I think those top four are really a really solid grouping, and something you could go with in quite a few tournament lineups. I don't know if they're cash though, but definitely a solid tournament lineup.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I'm not on him for cash games outside of Victor Martinez, but yeah, I'm definitely agreeing. I think the Tigers team has become much more GPP like this year, just because you never know which team is actually going to show up. I mean,
Right.
we've seen them in good spots before, and
Unless they face James Shields, then you know.
yeah, then you can just kind of plug them in. Orioles and Rays next one here. Dylan Bundy versus Jake Odorizzi, and not a big high scoring game projected, but there is a price tag that I like here quite a bit, and that's Manny Machado at 4K.
Mm.
You look at Odorizzi, I mean, he's been hit harder by righties and 341 WOBA, 1.52 home runs per nine. Machado, great option for me. I don't mind Adam Jones at his price tag, but I'm not getting crazy with the Trumbo at 5-1 or Chris Davis at 4-2. So I think I'm pretty limited with those two Orioles right-handers.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Matt Wieters as well, 4K, really like that. So yeah, I think you can look at the three value ones in that lineup and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think so too. And as far as the race side it goes, I mean, Bundy's an intriguing arm. I think there's a lot of strikeout upside for him there. Obviously, he's only worked out of the pen this season, but with that being said, it's hard for me to kind of get behind him in turns. I'm not quite sure how much upside is there, just because I'm not sure what his limit's going to be. But I'm not actually looking at any raise here. I think Bundy could throw a pretty quality start.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. Although I do look, you do kind of look at Brad Miller there and Logan Morrison, but they are a little more expensive. So yeah, I can understand not really touching that lineup.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit overpriced for me. If Miller was kind of in the 3.7, 3.8 range, I'd definitely be giving him a look.
Mm-hmm.
Pirates and Nationals here. Max Scherzer, 13.8 here on DraftKings. Pretty damn expensive. When you have guys like Fulmer and DeGrom a little bit cheaper, you got have John Gray, Tarahan. I think Scherzer becomes an option, but not. I don't think he's a must for me. Just given he's almost 14K, but obviously strikeout upside. I mean, he's kind of your top guy there.
So are you saying maybe not in cash for you?
I got to see what my pricing just seems so jacked up for hitters. I got to see what I can do with and try and get balanced. I mean, I would love to go, a Scherzer DeGrom cash game lineup. But I mean, that it just leaves you with 3,200 in comparison to a DeGrom Fulmer. I got 35 left over, just a little easier to do. And those pay down options aren't necessarily great there, and they're not great tonight.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit of a conundrum in cash. I think you do have some tough decisions on your hands. In terms of this Nationals lineup, though, I do think they're going to give him some nice run support. I do think he has a really good shot at a win. So, I mean, there's a ton of upside in this matchup. So 10 strikeouts and you're looking at hitting value here, maybe even 8. So I really like him. Obviously, you're fading the Pirates. But, I mean, I'm looking at this Jason Worth price at 2,900, and it's a little no, we're going with plurplexing here. We're going with it.
It is, and you look at Cool. I mean, obviously he's coming off a horrible start. He hasn't been exactly great through his 3 starts this season. You look at 9 earned runs over 3 starts and hasn't pitched deep into games. The Worth price tag. I mean, usually we take him against lefties, but I have no problem with that price tossing him in there. And Daniel Murphy, I mean, was out again last night, so it depends on what his status is. But obviously, I think the Nationals front 4 is certainly intriguing. If you feel like you need to pay up and go for a Bryce Harper, I think that's certainly in play. But I think the Nationals front 4 is certainly intriguing. If you feel like you need to pay up and go for a Bryce Harper, I think that's certainly in play. If you feel like you need to pay up and go for a Bryce Harper, I think that's certainly in play. If you feel like you need to pay up and go for a Bryce Harper, I think that's certainly in play. So overall, I mean, I definitely like the Nationals offense, but kind of like everyone else, their pricing just seems to be a little bit higher than I'd like it to be.
Yeah, definitely higher than you feel comfortable with for sure.
So Mets and Phillies next one here, and I love Jacob DeGrom today. I mean, taking on the Phillies, minus 162 favorite. He's a steady pay down option from Scherzer up top at 10-6. So I think for me, he's laying as just my SP1 price considered. Um, it's kind of hard to ignore him against a team like the Phillies.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I mean, in terms of like paying down, I mean, that's a huge amount to pay down to. So you kind of got to weigh that. And I'm guessing our cafe value is going to come up with some similar results. But I mean, that in terms of what you're saving, I think that might be worth it.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I mean, does DeGrom is the higher upside going to go to Scherzer? Yes. I mean, is he the likely to
Yeah.
score 30 DK points? Certainly. But say Scherzer does have a game where maybe he gives up a couple of homers and he's only getting you 24, 25 DK points. I think that's kind of where DeGrom's going to sit today. So
Right.
that happens. You got a tremendous advantage of dropping down about 3K.
Yeah, and even if you are fading DeGrom, you're not really touching this Phillies lineup. They're pretty priced up for what you'd be looking for in this type of slate and matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been priced much higher against weaker pitching in the series, and all of a sudden they faced a Grom and they're priced higher. So I don't know what's going on. Someone hit the wrong button or something over there at DK, but the pricing just seems completely off today.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as the Mets side of things go, I think we kind of sit in a similar spot as we have most of these last few days, where you like the value pieces. You still like a Neil Walker against Eflin there, and they're projected, for a decent amount of runs. I mean, 4.5. I don't mind the Mets today at some of their price tags.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Neil Walker, pretty solid again. Granderson, super expensive, but I mean, I think you can manage with that top four depending on what Cespedes does. The Reyes, Granderson, Walker, Loney. I mean, I think that's pretty intriguing with all those lefties versus Eflin.
Yeah, I think so too. And you look, I mean, if you're looking to kind of punt catcher, Travis d'Arnaud is still a guy who I'm looking at 3-3. He's one of the more reliable guys. I mean, I guess you could say who's going to be in the lineup. Should be in there to Sunday. So for me, I think the Mets are kind of a team I might work in and out with some value.
Definitely.
Rockies and Braves next one here, and two of these arms, I'm not expecting a ton of runs from both sides. I think both these arms have pretty severe upside, and I think their floors are relatively high too. So John Gray is more expensive at 10-1. I definitely like him quite a bit. I also like Tehran facing a Rockies team that outside of Core's higher strikeout rates. And I think, after two Rocky starts, the ownership is not going to really be there for Tehran. So I kind of like firing away with him more so in GPPs.
Yeah, these two are fun in terms of tournaments. Obviously, I think we sort of lean towards DeGrom and maybe a Fulmer in cash. But, I mean, other than Freddie Freeman, I think Gray's got a really good shot at a quality start here. I mean, obviously he's inconsistent, but that's because of, at home is just like, drag. So I like this spot for him quite a bit. And I think he's definitely in play. So definitely firing away there. And then Terrain, I mean, 8,900, that's a great deal. So definitely like that against Rocky's team, which obviously home road splits are gross. So I
Yeah,
like him
definitely.
quite a bit as well.
Yeah, me too. And with those being said, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the offenses. I mean, for me, I do think Blackman and Cargo are obviously GPP plays just because they're both 4K.
Yeah.
And if you want, I mean, you want to say, hey, something's up with Tehran that, his 10 earned over his last two starts are some of a predicament of what's going to happen in the future. You can lock in the Rockies at a low ownership, a low price tag if you want to go that route. I'm not completely writing them off.
Right. And then, yeah, I mean, Freeman at 37 isn't too bad, not killing you, and he loves righties. So definitely like that. But yeah, stick to the lefties. I wouldn't get too crazy with the Rockies, though.
Yeah, definitely not either. Indians and Twins, Kyle Gibson versus Josh Tomlin, and I like both sides of this game for offense. I'm not looking at either of these pitchers. And you look at Tomlin, he's just given up a ton of home runs of late. I think there's a lot of pop in this Minnesota team that you can get for cheap.
Yeah, Tomlin, I mean, it's coming. 8 home runs in his last four outings, and then 11 in his last 6. So that's not what you like to see. So I mean, you kind of look for the guys who have pop in this lineup. I think even the righties, Sano and Dozier, I think are definitely solid to throw in there. And hey, even could be a Joe Mauer night.
Definitely could be. I mean, you look at Tomlin, as you mentioned, all those home runs, and you look this season, 2 starts against Minnesota, 7 earned between the two, 4 homers allowed. So I'm with you. I think you're looking at some of these power bats. I think you're looking at Sano at 4.2, Dozier at 3.2. I don't mind Kepler at 4.6. So I think 1 through 5, it's definitely a fun team to target. And I think this game is going to be pretty high scoring, and I think on both sides there.
Yeah, and I wonder what the ownership percentage is going to be there. Probably not crazy. So, I mean, Dozier might be attractive at 32 to a lot of people, but especially a Sano, I think that's a great tournament option.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a ton of upside with those guys, and on the Indian side of things, I mean, the prices are still a little bit higher than I like here. But obviously, I still think the Ramirez, the Chisenhall range is intriguing. The Nyquin at 3,900. I don't mind those guys. And I do think, obviously Kipnis, Lindor, Napoli, Santana, whoever you want to go at first base, are obviously intriguing options in their own price range.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson kind of serves it up on a platter sometimes. So, especially against some lefties here, definitely like Kipnis. I mean, they're overpriced for what I would want to pay, but they're always a stacking option at this stage. I think we just kind of not quite like the Red Sox, but they're getting towards that territory where you just kind of trust them.
Yeah, definitely. Marlins and Cardinals next one here. Michael Wacha versus Adam Conley, and Cardinals projected for 4.5 runs, and I could certainly see it. Yeah, I mean, for the most part against lefties, they haven't been great. I think you're probably betting on which Adam Conley actually shows up to the ballpark that day.
I think that's a big factor because obviously we've seen him. There's pretty much no in between. It either is not good from the first pitch or it's, oh, baby, we're going for the big one here. So I'm not necessarily targeting him, but I think he's enough to keep me away, even from a positive Vegas total and line and such. I think I'm just not touching that situation. That just seems inflated to me.
It does for me too. I mean, Randall Grichuk at 3,100s, obviously he'll sneak up to the leadoff spot as he did against Chen, so he would become a nice value. Diaz at 4.4. I can get behind at his price. Piscotty at 5.2 is expensive, even though he's crushed lefties this year. So I think given the price ranges, I think the Cardinals are out a little bit, especially Piscotty. I do think GPPs, you can plug them in if you're paying down the pitcher.
Grichuk's a good call, though. 31. He's obviously had a lot of power of late, so you definitely like that. I just worry about them sort of getting a quick start for Conley, and then, he's sort of out the gate there. So not a full fade, but I'm not getting a lot of exposure to them.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as the Marlins side of things, Wacha's pitched a little bit better. I still like Marcell Ozuna's price at 3,600. For me, I mean, that's a playable guy in all formats, and I do think the middle of that lineup, I do think Yelich and Stanton could be something to be a little bit troublesome for Wacha.
Yeah, Wainwright is a bit of a different situation for me than Wacha. I'm okay with targeting the Marlins a little bit here, especially Ozuna at 36. I think you definitely like that. And even a Prado, I'm okay with that. Obviously, the handedness isn't in their favor, but I think you can fire away with that. Yelich probably taking the night off. But I think between Prado, Stanton, and Ozuna, you could get some decent value from those bats.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Moving on to the next one. This one's kind of intriguing. John Lackey versus Cole Hamels here, and in Wrigley, I think there's some interesting bats here. You look at Hamels. I mean, hasn't necessarily been great in his last two outings against Minnesota. 10 earned between those two, walked 9 after a really great a great stretch from him. I kind of like these Cubs right-handers against him. I know obviously Cole Hamels still carries that big factor name, but it's hard to not like a Contreras or a Bryant or a Zobrist. I mean, Bryant's still his usual self-price, but I don't hate that. The only one I hate is Bays at 5K, but I think maybe if I said that, he's probably going to hit a homer.
I don't understand that one at all. I mean, I guess the algorithm just finally snapped into his wobas for the year, but I can't think of anything other than that. But yeah, definitely like Chris Bryant, definitely like Zobrist, and even a Wilson Contreras, depending on who's in at catcher. I think you can fire away with those three. But other than that, yeah, not really touching the rest. And I don't know that you need to go to Rizzo tonight. Today, 2:20. A late afternoon, brisk afternoon dance out to the lake in the afternoon.
You look at Hamels, and I mean, he's kind of average at times against righties this year. I mean, 330 WOBA, 2 righties, 1.34 home runs per 9. So it definitely would not surprise me to see a couple balls go out of the park in a day game at Wrigley here.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So especially if that wind is blowing out, I think this is going to be an intriguing situation for offense. And I think the same thing with the Rangers offense, because you look at Lackey. Lackey's been a guy who's been really faltering. I mean, you just go back to his last couple starts. I mean, 10 over the last 2, allowed 7 against Miami. He's kind of fallen off the runway here. So I don't know. I kind of like these Rangers prices and think they could have a lot of damage.
Yeah, I definitely agree in a certain tournament respect. I mean, I think you can look at a Prince Fielder at 29 and feel okay with it, and maybe even a Beltre or a Mazzara. But I'm really going towards the value. I don't think I'm touching Lackey tonight, though.
No, I'm not either. I mean, let's say we get to lineup lock time and wind is blowing out 20 miles per hour. And we've seen Wrigley playing the wind. We've seen those totals jump out to 10, 11. That puts this game in just total cash game territory. And I think you got the high price guys on the Cubs side. I think you get the value on the Rangers. And both these pitchers, I know they carry a good name, but I do think, it sails to a double-digit combination of runs.
Yeah, definitely.
So definitely something to definitely keep an eye on. Definitely do that. White Sox and Angels here, and you got the Angels or the White Sox going up against Jared Weaver. So for me, that's definitely intriguing. I think maybe you can look at some of those guys for value, even though they're not that reliable of an offense.
You said the Angels?
So White Sox against the Angels against Weaver.
I don't like a lot of those prices, but I think you can look at Calhoun and Trout for pretty reasonable. But I mean, kind of in the same way I've been looking at them the last few days. Solid, but not necessarily in my mind cash consideration.
Yeah, I mean that's just going to be it's kind of the usual suspects. And what about the White Sox? I mean, Weaver has been hit pretty hard. I mean, do you think we can actually trust them in actually doing something?
I think they're worth the gamble. Yeah. I mean, is there a decent chance they just don't do anything again? Yeah. But I think you can fire away with the middle of that lineup for sure, including Todd Frazier. So 2 through 5, I really like, and then even Tim Anderson in the tournament.
Yeah, you look at Weaver. I mean, 369 WOBA to righties this year, 1.74 home runs per 9. So obviously, you look at guys like Frazier, Eaton, or Abreu, Cabrera, you don't mind. I really like the front 5. I think I might mix 1 or 2 of them in just because I'll probably need some salary relief, and they do give it to you in a great matchup.
For sure.
So that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.